Hi, this is a Minute of Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now this week I want to talk about the uncertainty of app development. Alright, so this week I want to change gears a little bit and talk to people who are just thinking about starting an app, or you have an idea and you haven't quite started it yet, or maybe you started it but you're kind of dragging your feet a little bit. I want to talk about getting started, because I think getting started is the hardest part, right? It's that motivation, because you don't know whether or not it's going to work, and nobody can tell you whether or not it is. I know this firsthand, because people will contact Overpass and we'll get in the first meeting, and then they'll tell me their app idea, and then they'll look at me and hope that I'll validate it for them. They'll be like, "So what do you think, Eric? Do you think it'll work?" Or and I just I'm a terrible salesperson, because I always say, "I don't know, it might," right? Because you never know. You can make assumptions, you can do market research and all that, but you really don't know until you get something out there on the market, right? And that's the hardest part of it, right? Because you're investing time and money, and you got all this uncertainty. And even if you look at somebody who's already done it before, that doesn't necessarily mean you could do the same things and get the same results. So it's a constant struggle each day. So just give you an idea, because I can remember starting the first app. First, I had the idea for my first app, which is, well, I won't tell you what my first one was, but my second one was Spy. So the first thing I did was I got the computer books out, and I thought, I'm going to learn how to code this, and I started learning Android, and I started working on it on nights and weekends, and I didn't get anywhere. It was just such a slow process, and plus, because I was doing it myself, I was second guessing myself all the time. This perfection went in. So in the end, I just changed tacks and I hired somebody, right? And they weren't the best developers in the world. God, believe me, they weren't the best developers in the world. But but it got done. So we had a time scale. They went over time, right? It was like 6 weeks late, but it wasn't that big a deal, because I didn't invest too much money in it. But for me, it was a lot of money at the time. So putting that in there, and I could just remember, I didn't tell anybody about it, because when I mentioned it, you either got people who say, "Yeah, that's great, you'll make millions," which was kind of, even then I considered to be a hyperbole. They're just, I didn't expect to make millions, but I just wanted to be able to make something to see whether or not it would work. Or there were people, well, more often than not, you'd get the, "Oh, Eric, why are you making an app?" And then the rolling the eyes, and I like to, in my mind, I like to think that I have unwavering confidence, but I don't. I have such wavering confidence. I think, Overpass would have moved so much faster with somebody with more self-confidence than I have, because anybody who says something that causes doubt in my mind, I'll kind of stop and check things out. Even though it's inch forward, we've got 6 million app downloads. We're making enough money to survive off of. I don't have to go into work every day anymore. All that stuff's really good, but still it's kind of inching forward. But I remember what that was like. It was it was really hard when you're surrounded by people who haven't taken that kind of risk before, who haven't taken that gone on have done something in a creative manner, they don't know whether or not it's going to work. And I tell you what, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people had a reason to give me why it wasn't going to work, or what I should do to change my idea, or why I should wait a year, or why I should, maybe next year will be better, or even worse, the time you should have done this was 2 years ago. So it was really hard, because when you start something like this, I remember what it was like. It was a constant not knowing whether or not it was going to work. And when it first went live on Android, I can remember within the first few days we had the first review, which was 1 star, and all it said was "WTF, this sucks," right? And I was just like, then I was ready to quit. I was like, oh well, we tried, but then it started to pick up a little bit. I started looking at different stuff, started learning about keywords, learning about, doing better screenshots, all this kind of stuff. And eventually it started to pick up. But, you never know when you're an app developer, because there's no rule book, right? There's nothing to say exactly what you should do, although there's loads of people who will sell you advice, right? There's loads of people who will give you a course or a book or whatever, and they'll say, oh, this is exactly how you do it, but there is no exact way. even today, right? When we talk with our team, it's always like, how can we get people downloading our apps today? And even the apps that are doing well, what if, those could like go away tomorrow, or, or whatever. The users could just disappear. You're constantly, every day is getting up and think, how do I get people into view my apps, and doing it, every day. So let's try out this ad network. Let's try out YouTube videos. Let's try out, let's use this social media network, or let's try this, or let's reach out to people and all this kind of stuff. And it's a constant, not only, even after it goes live, you're still kind of on your own, right? So it's, all the developers who watch this channel, all the app owners out there, you know what it's like, because you have something out there and everybody's giving you advice, and everybody's saying, oh, you know what you should do, oh, whatever. And even, especially if you have an app that's not doing well, right? And I've mentioned this before, our apps fail more often than they succeed, but we're releasing them all the time. So in fact, this week I just released two. I released, well, they were both kind of the same theme. It was a Cantonese Spy and Spanish Spy, but it's, it's putting things out there and then trying to get people to find them, playing around with keywords, trying to make sure that you get the right exposure everywhere, trying different ad networks, trying different messages within the in-app purchases, and experimenting. So for those of you who are getting started, I mean, one of the things you could learn from a lot of the people who watch this channel and leave comments is that they all have this kind of experience, right? We're all kind of in this together. The one thing I really hate is going through and meeting. I've gone to a lot of like conferences where you meet with like big app developers, like a giant company that went out and got loads of funding, and they hired all these people who are in user acquisition. They're user acquisition specialists, and all they do all day is think about how to pay to get people to download the app, right? And for most of us, we don't have that. We're just trying to go out there and get people to use it. And for a while, and sometimes it can just feel like it's not going to work, or you're just wasting your time. But I guess if there's one thing I could say is that that's not the case, right? I think about, every time I release a new ad or a new feature, I hope that the next day I'll look at the stats and they'll just spike up, right? Like there'll be, like I'll have 100 downloads today, but then tomorrow after I release this feature, there'll be 10,000 downloads, right? But that's actually never happened. But I might have 105 and then 110, and then so it's a much more gradual thing. And I just want to say to those of you who are just thinking about getting started, and I'm sure a lot of the people who watch this channel will agree with me, the best thing to do is get started, because you're never, ever, ever going to be sure, right? The only way you're going to know is to start. And even when you do start, more often than not, the progress you see is going to be slower than you think it should be. But you're not going to make any progress if you don't do anything at all. So that's it for this week. Just wanted to talk to some of the people, because we're getting a lot of questions lately about about this kind of thing. So that's it for this week. I hope it's been helpful. That's it. I'll talk to you next week.